All right. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining. This was a last-minute video. I'm going to have a hard stop at the top of the hour, but I want to talk about and address uh, some comments I was getting on the true SDX. But before we get going here, this might be related to our topic today. We have Eric's Brain Hurts. I'm a bit of a radio dummy. Hey, man, I started there too 5 years ago. Didn't know anything about radio. I've got my friends on some decent VHF handhelds, but do you think you could do a video on some entry level, mid level, or equipment that can achieve 1 to 200 mile comms? Yeah, so unfortunately for that, Eric, unless you have good repeater infrastructure in your area, you're not going to be able to do that on VHF without repeaters. Even then, they're going to require something called linked repeaters. We have those in the state of Arizona, but if your goal is to be off grid, I wouldn't recommend it. What I do recommend for people that do need that type of coverage, 1 to 200 miles, is HF communication. And in the US, that requires that you get your general class license. So that's the best way to go. And in fact, the true SDX, if you're unsure, these guys run about 150, 60 bucks all in. They're not the greatest radios, but we'll talk about that in a second. And I'll talk about kind of the role of where I see those. So a few years ago, I started this kind of this philosophy of tools, not toys. And it came out of me using the Raspberry Pi 3B Plus and using it in my environment, which is the Sonoran Desert, just north of Phoenix in the summer. And our summers can be fairly long to maybe just a couple months on the shorter side in terms of just raw temperatures. We will have in excess of 40 days of triple digits. And in a lot of cases, when we get to our peaks, it's not unrare to have 118 degrees Fahrenheit. And I will operate in those conditions. I have a way to protect myself and the gear to do it safely. But that's how and when I like to operate. And I've had a lot of gear failures. And the Raspberry Pi 3B Plus died about 3 times in just one summer. And I decided that that was a toy. So this whole idea of tools, not toys, kind of stuck. And people were surprised in my last video, the one where I tried to do concealment techniques for the first time, and I pulled out the true SDX. So for those of you who are not familiar with this, I've done 3 videos. Let's see here. So this first video was my first real test of the true SDX. It's a HF only transceiver, and it's actually pretty nice. I'll go over some of the features here in a second. But this video, or the reason why I used it, even though it's a departure from what I typically use for my normal gear, and most people's like, why are you using it? It falls under the toy category. Well, it has value. I went to Huntsville, Alabama last year, and my goal was to not check on any baggage whatsoever. I wanted to just do a carry-on. And I had to be there for about 3.5 days. So I had to have a small enough backpack and a small carry-on to be able to make it through TSA and not check baggage. Now, if I brought something like my normal, more, we'll call it a duty radio, the my man pack, this is the Yaesu FT818ND. You'll notice I've got this one here with my Rainfly. We'll take this off. It's a heavy freaking, it's not only a little bit larger. I mean, as far as radios goes, this thing is all in one. It's the do everything radio, VHF, UHF, HF, and I've got the battery in the front. All you have to do is pop off the top. And these bags are coming back, guys. It's just going to take me some time. And then I have access to both a VHF, UHF port or antenna port and HF, and can do all the things here. The problem is I just weighed this on my scale. This thing comes in at, let me weigh it one more time. I think it was 8 pounds, 8 pounds, 11 ounces. So for a lot of the work that I do, while this is, I'm going to be clear. If shit goes sideways, sorry for my French, if stuff goes sideways, this is very likely the one radio that I'll take with me because of its reliability. It's still relatively compact, and I trust this radio. This radio has been on the market for over 20 years in one shape or form. This is the newer 818 that's now discontinued, but the 817 goes back to, I believe, 2001. So if I could only have one radio, it would be the Yaesu FT818ND in my man pack configuration. But when I go out and usually hit the backcountry, whether I'm trail running, let's say that I do a long trail run like on the weekends and I want to do maybe 12 to 18 miles. Weight and size is going to be an issue. And again, based on my environment, I do need to have support gear, protection from the sun, and plenty of water. In the summer, I actually bring with me 8 liters of water, and I believe a liter is about 2 pounds pop. So just 16 pounds in water is what I'm already carrying, in addition to being able to accommodate that. So these days, my normal trail pack when I'm hiking or trail running just for the day is a 22-liter Osprey pack. And this is what I brought out in that last video. So if I were to include something like my traditional man pack, I have no room for support gear. So where this brings me is even though it can be considered a toy, it's not going to win any awards. It's probably not the radio I'm going to want if I had to rely 100% on communication, is the TruSdx. And it has to do with its footprint. And I'm going to weigh the whole thing on the scale here real quickly. So we're coming in at 1 pound and 2 ounces, and that's including the bag and everything. So what I like about this is that this offers me voice and digital capabilities. And let's talk about the capabilities for voice. So I don't run a mic with mine. I just use the PTT button here and will quite literally speak into it. In fact, I did a video where it was this video. I was off frequency. This was the first time that I had used the TruSdx for voice communication. And at that time, every Saturday, we were holding a regional TTP net on HF on 40 meters. And I was able to make a contact with the control station out in Tucson at 120 miles. So for, I guess for Eric, for about 160 bucks, this thing with our terrain and the way that I deployed my antenna actually works as a poor man's voice transceiver. Works actually pretty well. You can go ahead and check out that video. So let me drop that link in there if you guys want to refer to this one here. So again, it's just what utility does the thing offer? The big thing I heard from a lot of people is like, well, I'm not going to buy it because it looks like a toy. Has it been reliable? For me, and you guys have seen how I go out in the desert and I just run it in this little 40 denier bag. I haven't had any issues, not one. In fact, if you want to compare it to anything, I would say maybe comparing it to the QRP Labs QDX. I actually had 3 failures on my original low band QDX. I really did like everything about that because it was very simple. And I had the finals blown out 3 times, even though I made sure I had exactly 12 volts regulated going in, even when I made sure I had a good match in my antenna. I'm running the same equipment, so I have not had an issue with the True SDX. Let's see, it looks like we might have a couple of people here. Actually, let's take this back up here. So Brian Wicks, good morning from Southwest Oklahoma. Morning, Brian. I'm actually going to be out in your neck of the woods for some graduations this year. Lee says the gallon is just over 8 pounds. A liter is just over a quarter gallon, so a little over 2 pounds. Yeah, so thanks for double checking my math there, Lee. Alabama Andrew says, in my opinion, it's only a toy if you buy it and don't really have a use for it. If you use it on a regular basis, it becomes a toy. Yeah, I fully agree. So my opinion with stuff like this is when you get to the point where it offers utility and you use it, it's a keeper. And I'll go back and probably steal a quote from, I don't know where I heard it, but they say even cameramen, professional people that are into photography, they'll always say the best camera you have is the camera you have with you. Yeah, I would absolutely love to have my 818, or when we go down into a dip in our solar sunspot cycle, my 100-watt 857. But due to the size and weight, that's not always the radio I have. I quite literally every day carry this thing. It even goes in my normal Haley Strategic flat pack. and I always have HF comms. In fact, if you guys look at the video, I pair it with a similarly sized multi-band antenna, so I don't even run a tuner. So in that video and all the videos that I've showed the TrueSDX, I bring with me RG316. And again, I try not to get focused on all of the ham nerd stuff about losses. It's not as big a problem on HF, but RG316, this is probably about 12 to 18 feet of it is fairly compact and light. In fact, you know what? Let's go ahead and weigh the whole antenna setup first before I take everything out. We're at 13 ounces. No. Yeah, 13. We're at 13 ounces for the antenna kit. So we're about 2 pounds total for the radio and the antenna kit. So RG316. I always bring a little bit of micro paracord with me when I run it in this configuration. And this is what I used on the video this past weekend. And it's really for me just to, let me show you how this works. It's actually kind of nice. And my go-to antenna these days is from Tim N9SAB, Tim N9SAB. And I absolutely love his NFED half wave. And I believe it's 50 watts on voice and 25 watts digital. But I deployed this in that video. I deployed it at the matching unit, probably at 4 feet. So I'll take a carabiner clip it onto a Palo Verde, and then I will run out the wire. And then on the other side, I've got a carabiner. I'll take the cordage and just run that out and tie it off to the tree. The deployment is literally at most 2 minutes. So very quick, and then it goes straight into this little guy. So the kit is ultra compact. And then in terms of powering this in the field, I've showed this many, many times. Let me pull out some more stuff here. I'm a huge fan of the Talent Cell batteries that are on Amazon. These things are nice because it has an on-off switch so that you make sure there's no parasitic draw when it's not in use. And it has a 12-volt barrel connector for charging. So I'll also run this on my 818 when I'm running 2.5 watts. I have a barrel to Anderson connector, but it also does 5 volts as well. So in a pinch, I can use this to charge my small 5-volt devices like my phone. I've got a Ranger band, and then on the bottom, I will put my band plan with my custom cards here. So optionally, what I'll do in the field just to keep everything together, let's see if I can do this real quick one-handed. I'll go ahead and stack it like this. So this is the package I'm working with. And I've shown this before. The other thing I keep in here is just a small little pouch my neighbor made for me. And I have these small power cables, earbuds. The earbuds actually are very useful when running this guy. I'm just using an old pair of wired earbuds from Apple. But what I like about it is I can take the 12-volt adapter here, and I bought this cable for $2 on eBay. Drop this guy on, and now we can go turn on the power. Right? Oh, there we go. So I would say that for me in my use, this allows me the ability to do single sideband voice without a mic. It allows me so I can do 300-mile communication with our NVIS deployed antenna low to the ground. And then the other thing that I'm a real big fan of is the DigiRig Lite. And this is a product by Dennis over at DigiRig. And it's great because there are cables for the TrueSDX. So we just drop in our audio and PTT cable there, and then drop this guy in, and this goes into the computer. And what this allows when paired with the software that I'm running on my mini computer, you guys have seen it before. I'll take it out if you guys really want. But I'm able to do JSA call, which is great for weak signal work, which means I can do very small messages with my group in the region very effectively with this compromised low to the ground deployed antenna with a transceiver that probably does not have the best set of filters installed, and it works. I've shown it many times using JSA call. So that's our emergency mode for sure. But I was surprised. I did another video. Let's see here. I think this one might be it. Yeah. I was experimenting with a bulletin board system and connecting to it over 300 baud, and it worked once I fully dialed in the TruSDX. And then this weekend, you guys saw for the first time operating under a concealed position with just that gear, able to use Vara. So for all of those, oh, and the price point, guys. I mean, let me see if I can even pull it up here. We'll go into Amazon. You guys probably want to see what I'm looking at here. And we'll just put in TruSDX. And this is literally the kit that, let's go bigger screen here so you guys can see it. You don't need to see me. And if you guys want to support the channel, this is an affiliate link. I'm going to drop this one in here. The big difference with mine is that I did spray paint mine. I wasn't sure if this was actually going to be a tool or a toy. So I figured, you know what, I might as well take it apart day one. I did go with the fully assembled unit. For me, I did not have enough time to put into winding the toroids and doing all of the surface mounting and dealing with all of that. And for 138 bucks plus, I don't know if it was free shipping or not, it got here the following day. So what's the worst case? You lose 140 bucks if it doesn't work out. It's probably better than, you know, this man pack, for example. I did the math a while back. Let's go big screen here. You know, the bag when I was making these ran about 300 bucks shipped because they're all handmade in the US. Locally, frames were about $120. Radio was not bad because I bought it when it was available. I want to say maybe 700. Have about 80 bucks into the battery, missed cables. So it starts to be a fairly expensive package. And again, this does not replace my 818 whatsoever. It does not replace my 857 man pack. The big difference is that the TruSDX is the one radio I can always bring with me, whether it's in my everyday carry backpack, in my trail pack. And then I don't know if you can see it, but right behind me, I've got my larger 39-liter Everly FAC track. And that thing is a heavy bag. Dry weight on the bag alone is 6 pounds, but it's been ultra rugged. I've been able to beat it up, go under barbed wire fence, get attacked by the cholla out here. And when I bring that bag, I'll bring this guy. And I'll do also a day, 8 liters of water in that kit, and then all the support gear. So my sleep system, my tent, my cook system, personal protection. It's a backbreaker. So the last couple seasons, I've been getting into dove hunting with kids, and they absolutely love it. And I've decided to stop bringing that backbreaker of a bag when we go hunting. And I use what I used to knock a traditional Osprey backpacker's backpack. It's a 65-liter backpack. And I still like to play radio in our downtime after we're done setting up dinner or whatever, or after we've been hunting and, you know, have field dressed our birds. It's really not too bad to add a total of just under 2 pounds for this entire system. And if I don't go digital, it's even lighter. I don't need to have all of this cable mess. Again, if I don't go digital, this is the entire setup with the one power cable. And I believe that there are actually also kits you can get for the TruSDX cases that have 18650 cells. I haven't tried them out, but really worth looking at. So again, if you guys joined late, this video was a response to, I think, over a dozen emails and comments on YouTube of what do you think about the TruSDX? And people asked, what about reliability? I have not had an issue with mine. I've had mine for almost a year now, and it has been out 24 times in all types of weather conditions. And I don't operate all day. I'm not a contester. I like to do the thing I want to do, like post a message on my BBS, send a sit rep over JSA call to the guys in my call group, hit a net that runs for 15 minutes and break down and go back to doing my other thing. All right. So let me look at a few comments here. Let's see. Lee says, I have the experience to build a kit, but winding toroids is annoying. Yeah, and for 138 bucks built, I don't even know how they're able to pay for the labor to put those together. And then a civil defense engineer says the true SDX is entry level in terms of price and portability, but it's definitely a DIY tinkerer's radio that would require some experience, in my humble opinion. I played it with JS8 Call. Yeah, so I think once you transition over into at least the digital modes, this is not an appliance. So let me correct the record there. Uh, this, I would say, all radios on the market today, with the exception of maybe a FRS or MERS radio, uh, are really not designed for people who are not willing to invest the time in radio. Um, when I got into the trusdx, I opted not to read the manual, and I just wanted to experience it for myself. The menu system actually was much nicer than I thought it would be, navigating it. I think the hardest part with this was dialing in the frequency, and especially when I was working with 300 baud packet, where you only have 30 hertz that you're working with. It was absolutely key. So that took me a little bit of time to get dialed in, but now it's perfectly on frequency and it works with all the modes. Um, so yeah, I think I would probably disagree with civil defense on this one, respectfully. I think if you're not into radio, all the radios are going to be difficult. Um, if you're looking for something, maybe something that is going to last you a lifetime, this may not be the radio for you. But if you have a similar goal as myself of always having something with you and you want to train with it regularly so you know all of its quirks, I think for the price point, size, and weight, it really can't be beat. And my personal recommendation is I have been burned too many times with the Cura P Labs, QMX, and the QDX, and it doesn't do all the things that this does. So that's just where I'm coming from. Oh, the Happy Ham is here. Don't know who he's talking about, but welcome. And then we've got Andrew, unrelated, but grilled dove breasts and bacon for the win. Ooh, that sounds good. Yeah, we usually just will breast them and then cook it in some jalapeno olive oil that my wife has, and just bring an onion with us. We go pretty low tech and some pepper and salt, and we're good to go. All right, guys. So hopefully that dispels or clears things up on my position on why the true SDX, why you see it in my videos, is I really enjoy going to the backcountry. In the earlier days of this channel, I've even carried the 891 and 857 up mountaintops, and I am fully depleted by the time I get up there. And while it gives me a lot more capabilities when I get to the location, these days, the 857 is mostly reserved for the Jeep and the RV. Actually, always Jeep and RV when I'm going anywhere that's a non-trivial distance. The 818, if I'm willing to bring a larger backpack and really want to do a lot of radio, but for day-to-day use, day trips, afternoon trips, True SDX is my recommendation. And if you have one that doesn't work out, maybe you got a counterfeit, there's really nothing I can do about it, but I just want to share with you what works for me and my experience. We'll do a couple more comments here, and then I think we'll call this. I've got to go to work in 20 minutes. Ohio Flyer 12 says, trying to set up an HF rig for my Boy Scout troop 500 miles from me. What should I get them? So it really depends on what they're doing. So again, if they're going to be backpacking and carrying support gear, if they're not going to be operating from a fixed location, I would say get them a true SDX. And I'm a believer and a fan of Tim N9 SABs, and I don't get commission on this antenna. It's just easy to deploy, compact, lightweight, and you can deploy it in a number of different configurations. So you can do a low to the ground flat topper for NVIS, and you might even get 500 miles in there. I actually do see 500 miles with a low to the ground deployment. You could deploy this one in a traditional sloper. You'll get a lot more distant communication. You might skip over that 500 miles that way. You can do something called an inverted L, which gives you some ground wave propagation with the vertical element, some nice skip, and then you can also get some NVIS. So yeah, if they're going to be backpacking and you want to communicate with them, I would say get that. If you're operating from a fixed location, this is not the radio that I would suggest. I would probably suggest any HF radio that seems like it would be good to take portable. A lot of the guys that do parks on the air, while it's a little bit big for my test, they do like the IC 7300. My personal favorite is the 857 because it comes in at 4 pounds and has a very small form factor, but that's been discontinued now since I think 2019. So hopefully that helps. Brian says, I missed my 857, impatiently waiting for Yacy to give us a true update. Yeah, I'm surprised that they didn't announce it. Personally, I'm on the waiting list for the reservation callback for their FTX1F. And we'll see if that actually turns out to be an 817 replacement. But right now, it doesn't look like they have anything for an 857D replacement. I do have the 991A behind me. I did trade a lot of gear to buy that without any out-of-pocket expense. I like it, but it's certainly no 857 replacement. The only similarity is that it is a all-band, all-mode rig that does VHF, UHF, and HF. Oh, so Civil Defense says, I'm hoping the TrueSDX can get USB control working. So that's one thing that I don't do, and it's mostly for simplicity. I had issues with the integrated USB support to do cat control and the all-in-one. And for me, I'm in it for emergency communication, and it was too flaky for me. So as you saw in that last video, I run the DigiRig Lite, which means that I have to manually tune the frequency, and it works well enough. So that's the route that I've chosen. I actually don't use the USB integration for anything. Let's see here. Oh, Dale has the Lab 599 Discovery. Yeah, I've always been intrigued by that one. I'm actually really intrigued by their new Manpack version, the MP model. The thing I didn't like about the first one was really just the octopus cable setup, so I never decided to move on it. And Andrew says, is the SSB voice audio as bad as people say? Oh yeah, it's terrible. In fact, the speaker is a hot mess. And I did drop a link. Let me drop it one more time here, just in case you guys missed it. And please note, this was the first time I used it in this video a few months back. And in this video, I was just using the speaker. I wasn't using a microphone whatsoever, and it was off frequency. I have since corrected and tuned it. So I think I might have been off by 600 hertz, which is way off. But what I was telling people earlier, what I do is what helps the received audio be a little bit better is if you pair it with just maybe an old set of headphones. So I carry my old 3.5 millimeter wired Apple headset, and it does help on being able to make out the received audio signals. Pat Hopkins says, really love using the TrueSDX, really easy setup anywhere, doing radar, SOTA, POTA. Yeah, thanks for jumping in, Pat. So anybody else having good success with it? Again, I know I was the one who coined this term, tools, not toys, within the context of what I do. And everybody's like, yeah, that's a toy. I'm like, I thought so initially, but if it does what you need it to do, proves to be somewhat reliable for you, I would put it under the tool category. But again, everybody's needs are different. Ryan says, have you tried the Lab 599 TX500? It's my go-to. I know it's pricey, but it has stood up against rain, snow, rough use. Do you find the TrueSDX to be physically reliable? So I baby my gear when I'm in the field. So one, I have not had any reliability issues. This thing has turned on every time I've needed to. I run it in exactly this configuration with an unregulated 12-volt power supply. I do keep up on making sure it's always topped off. So the voltage for me never really drops below, I don't know, high 11 volts when I'm using it. And if I'm operating in the rain, like in our July monsoon season, I'm under a tarp shelter, not really a problem. I also have a tendency to cover, what happened to them? In general, I'll put these silicone covers on everything. I used to have them on the two jacks here, but since I'm using it so much for digital, I don't do that anymore. And then in the summer, I'm under a tarp shelter. Granted, it's still probably ambient temperature of about 110, 12 to 14 degrees, but also no reliability issues whatsoever there. So Gabe asks, what do you do for work? So I'm a technical consultant, kind of a technology generalist, but mostly focusing on developing websites for large clients that are content driven. So I build content management systems. So any site that pushes content out, writes lots of content, I build those systems. And then prior to that, I was a search engineer. So I built search engines for a living. So anytime you guys have interacted with a little search bar on a website to find something, I used to build those. And that's why my MCOM Tools project, at least the commercial version that I never released, has a lot of offline search capabilities that are very fast and very lightweight for doing things like geodistance search. I built genomic search engines for biotech companies. I've built search engines for the car and automotive industry. So I'm hoping to retire hopefully soon. I've been doing this since 1997. I'm 43 years old, but I'm burnt out of tech. And especially now with AI coming, I just don't have the strength for it. So I may be thinking about fully retiring or doing a second career change altogether. So the Brocam says, have you checked out K6 ARK's mic for the TrueSDX? It's very small and can probably fit in your bag. So I saw a video that he did a while back where I think he was working and he tried to do, I think, 3 different modes, and it was part of a sub 1 pound challenge. And I think he did FT8, voice, and CW. I noticed that he did have a special PCB and circuit there, but that's as far as I've gone with it. I really haven't had the time to research it. Here's the thing for me. When something works, I stop fiddling with it. The TrueSDX for the audio that I do, the minimal voice audio, works all the time for my regional communication, and all the digital modes work. So I haven't had to squeeze any more performance out of it. And usually I'm adverse to adding more gear unless there's a very specific problem to solve. So no, I probably won't be looking at it. I just don't want something else to add to the mix. Certainly don't want to carry a microphone. Most of my work is digital. One other thing along those lines is the BTEC UV Pro, right? I was also very skeptical of this guy, but the one feature that really sealed it for me was the Bluetooth TNC. Granted, you could only do 1200 baud packet with it, but that's a lot of what I do. And I installed the app the first time, did the first firmware upgrade, and then I deleted the app. I don't want that Chinese spyware on my phone. And now there apparently is a new version of the firmware. And my philosophy is I'm not going to update it. I had a couple guys in my group that updated it as soon as it came out. And I'm like, why did you do that? You have no idea if it's going to be performant. So for me, this now is a standalone device. It doesn't have any connection to my phone. So my philosophy, being in the IT industry for so long, is that I never update and I don't try to muck with stuff once it works. My friend Brian has a phrase called DNFW. Do not F with. And that's pretty much my philosophy. Unless there's something broken, I won't touch it. So I have 2 BTEC UV Pros that have not this firmware, but the last one, and they just work, and I'm done. It's a tool. I'm not going to mess around with it anymore. Let's see here. What else we have? Oh, Kathleen's on. So Kathleen was the gal that built, I have to thank for the antenna setup. I've got 2 roof-mounted antennas that's driving my whole shack for the VHF and UHF ports on my BBS. I've got a Diamond X50A and a Diamond Discone. I forget the model. And I have Roan non-penetrating sleds on the roof. And she built a custom mast that will nest into the sled and then mates really nicely and allows for an integral connection with the feed line. So it's all sealed up from the antenna all the way down. So really cool stuff. Kathleen says, I've had a number of career changes, always exciting to go into a new direction. Yeah, that's probably exciting. I don't know if I'm going to do the YouTube thing for forever, but the radio stuff sure seems fun right now. Maybe that could be a possible future uh, pivot. And I think this might be the last one here, guys, and then I'm going to drop. I have to get ready for work. So Ed says, KISS, keep it simple, stupid is how I live. Yep, KISS is the philosophy. In fact, the software project that I've been working on and off for the last few years, MCOM Tools, that is the ruling mantra of KISS. People are asking, why aren't you supporting more radios? Well, I'm only supporting radios that seem to be the most popular ones and the ones that are designed for really being used in the field and offer utility. But I made a very specific decision to do one radio, one mode at a time for simplicity, right? So if I'm going to be doing JSA call, that radio is the only radio connected, and I'm just going to be doing JSA call. Once I'm done doing that mode, kill it, switch the next mode, maybe do WinLink, maybe connect to my BBS. And people are asking for that feature of like, I would love to use one computer with multiple radios and do multiple modes. And that's a level of complexity on the software side that would bring that project backwards insofar as complexity and then more reliability issues. So yeah, I'm very much a fan of KISS. Oh, Pat's another career switcher, it looks like. And the Happy Ham. Thanks for the radio, by the way. I'm loving it. So shameless plug, guys. If you like what I'm doing, like kind of the software I'm putting out there for free, if you like these videos, if you like the experiments I'm doing, I'm still trying to figure out how to do this full time. If you want to support me over on Buy Me a Coffee /thetechprepper, I would very much appreciate it. I don't have a whole lot of time for engagement, but I do have a lot of perks. But the reason why I'm bringing that up, I'm going to drop the link here as a shameless plug. It really helps me kind of do everything I'm doing. It helps bootstrap products. But the Happy Ham last month, he's a silver member. I gave away the BTEC UV Pro. I also have been doing giveaways on the Buy Me a Coffee side for VARA licenses. Now that I'm using VARA HF and VARA FM and have that working with my software suite, I wanted to give back. So I reached out to Jose, and I'm buying licenses now in bulk. And every month for the rest of the year, I'm going to be handing out 2 licenses every month on the member live streams. But I've also done giveaways here and there. And every month I try to find a nice giveaway, at least for the top tier supporters. So he was the one who won. So thanks for your support. Stuff keeps rolling in here. Okay, 7 minutes hard stop. Gabe says, I'm just getting into cybersecurity as a career change, getting into ham radio as a side hobby. Just got my first eBay Kenwood TM V718. That's a nice rig, and eBay is the way to go. That's how I started as well. Get a lot of my gear from eBay. It's a great way to get in. So good luck with the hobby. It is a hobby of 1,000 hobbies, and there are tons of rabbit holes. I have to put the brakes on looking at a lot of different areas just because you could go deep. Like the BBS work I've been doing, I'm over 70 days, and every day I'm like, it's time to stop and make and release the full length BBS video. And I find that it's just, wow, I just learned about BBS forwarding today, and now I have a peering relationship with my buddy, the Modern Ham in Kentucky. And so I had to put the brakes on it. But point is, there are so much areas to explore. You can really go deep in all of them. Let's see here. Jesse at Three Little Goats Homestead. Working is lame. Quit and start a homestead in the middle of nowhere. I highly recommend it. It's great for your sanity. Yeah, if I was single, I would sell everything in a heartbeat and be fully retired tomorrow. My wife is a city girl. We're kind of in the outskirts. We're in a rural part of town where we can't get anything delivered here. The only utility we have is electricity. We're on a well, but homesteading sounds really appealing. So maybe I can convince her especially if it means I could retire tomorrow. That's the way that I would go. All right, let's see what else we have going on here. Oh, civil defense engineer. Thank you for supporting me on Buy Me a Coffee. Yeah, no offense by the difference of opinion. It's just I've always been a believer of use whatever tools works for you. Everybody's needs are different. If you and your group are within a mile range, use an FRS radio or a MERS radio. If you guys are willing to get GMRS licenses and only need, less than 5 miles range, go that route. Pick the radio and equipment that works best for you. Oh, we got Billy. All right, guys, you have to jump over and check out his stuff. I'm going to go look him up real quick on YouTube. So Billy has been instrumental on helping me out set up my modem or my BBS system. And in fact, this morning, we were able to send across our first. Hold on a second here. I want to make sure I give him a shout out on his channel. Check him out. All right. He says, my node pulled your message during an automatic connection. So I saw it yesterday. I sent a message back, but you won't see it until one of those nightly automatic VARA connections. So we're going to go uber nerd here for a second. I'll be a little bit late for work. So I'm running a bulletin board system behind me. I've been doing a little bit of high level what it is and why I'm doing it. And one of the things you can do with a bulletin board system is establish these peering or forwarding relationships between someone else. So I'm based in North Phoenix in Arizona, and Billy is out in Kentucky. We are both running a bulletin board system, and we both have our ecosystem of local users that go to it to check bulletins, exchange messages with each other, interact with applications we may have. And I finally got to the point where now we have close to 48 users, and I have a number of different ways of people to connect into me. Right now, I have 300 baud HF link over packet. I have a 1200 baud 8 or VHF packet, and then for about a week now plus, I have a VARA HF link. So on his side, Billy has something called a connect script. And every night within his software at a certain time window, it will connect it'll tune the radio to the frequency that I'm on, which is 7.100 megahertz upper sideband. And he'll instruct it to connect to KT7RUN-7. And it will send me any mail that is destined for Arizona. So it's not even only for my use. Anybody in Kentucky that has mail that should be destined to a station out here in the Southwest or in Arizona, Billy's station will forward that to my station, and local people can pick that up. But then we've also enabled a feature where, as part of his nightly connection during that window, he will also pull any messages that I have for him. So it's a really cool setup. It's 100% about as uber geek as you can get. But my focus for a lot of this year is to bring people back into the packet or just into the bulletin board scene where there is zero infrastructure. So there's no phone company involved. There's no internet involved. My system is 100% running on battery power. So there is zero infrastructure. We could have a full power outage and that system would still work on my end. So big shout out to Billy for helping me do that. Billy, I did respond to you, and yeah, I'm on board for doing a full exercise. Let's see here. Wow. Let's see. Mark says, great info, videos, appreciate your efforts. Yep, my pleasure, Mark. Let's see. Civil defense engineer says, laughing out loud, I didn't mean to put you down or put down the use of the TrueSDX. I have one after all and use it. Yeah. Oh, and my buddy Mark, my TrueSDX is arriving tomorrow. Can't wait to try it out. Yeah, Mark, and it works great with MCOM tools. So we'll have to get you squared away with that build. So Ryder Well says, I can't seem to understand why not use CB. So yeah, this is a shit. I'm going to be in trouble for work today. All right. Why not CB? So CB is great has an application. It's another tool. I would not say it's the only tool. In fact, None of these things are the only tool. If you are someone who's on the road a lot, commuting, certainly if you're a trucker, CB makes sense. Even if you're doing 4x4 off-road, that makes sense along with GMRS. But CB is voice only. I don't think you can do digital modes. One of the reasons why I'm a big fan of people getting on amateur radio and here in the US getting their general is that uh, it allows us to do short range, mid range, and long range communication depending on the equipment, specifically the antenna and the power you're using. And we can do voice, but the digital modes are so much more powerful. So, for example, right now, my group has the capability on HF with hardware as inexpensive of this to do point-to-point transfer of emails directly to one another. We have the ability to do emails through a third party over the air that can be destined to anybody in the world with a valid email address. We have the ability now to connect to something called the bulletin board system, which allows us to post late breaking information, do message exchange, share small files. So for me, HF and amateur radio offers a lot more. And as I mentioned earlier, there's another mode called GSA call, which requires that you do, again, interface your radio with a cable to your computer. But it works very well under poor solar conditions, especially when we're down in a low solar cycle, works well with low power and compromised antennas. And we can exchange very small text messages. And I've used this thing many times in canyons, tucked between two granite faces and still able to get my signal out. So, yeah, I would say I'll probably get CB at some point, or at least modify one of my radios to transmit on 11 meters here. But yeah, every mode is a tool. The way that I would like to see it is if you're a craftsman, it doesn't make sense to make the argument, well, why not a claw hammer or why not a circular saw? It's depending on the application, you're going to have different tools. In a lot of cases, like I said, something like these all band, all mode rigs, like the old Yaesu 818, especially with the constraints removed for out of band transmitting with something like the Mars Cat mod, open this up to do a lot of things, and that ends up turning more into a Swiss Army knife. But yeah, there's just a tool for everything. Let's see here. Wow, we got comments galore going here. So Bobby says, thanks for all the true information you provide. It's cool to learn from someone that doesn't mind sharing the scripts as well. Thanks. Yeah, guys, I am not the expert, not terribly eloquent. I drop the ums and the ahs. I know nothing about audio production, video production. I like to solve problems, and I like to find gear that works and doesn't work for me, and I share the wins and the fails. So that's what this channel has always been about if you watch it from the very beginning. In fact, all right, I'm going to have to send the apology note that I'm going to be missing a meeting at work today. If you saw the video that I did this weekend, and it was a blast doing, where I was operating concealed, I had never gone out there and deployed a shelter with the express purpose of deploying it in the dark and then trying to be concealed using camo netting and an A-frame, which I never deploy. And it had a lot of issues. I learned a lot about myself, my gear, and the realities of deploying it. And a lot of people had a lot of great techniques. There's something called an alpha tent, which will reuse the same USGI poncho and do like an X pattern, and you end up with a turtle shell. I looked at that and said, I like that. It solves the problem of being a lot faster to deploy, but now I need to carry trekking pole or tent poles, which I don't carry. So I thought to myself, what are the other things that I really need if I want to operate concealed, have maximum reuse of my gear? So the other thing is I am in the state of Arizona. Right now we are not in snake season, but when it does get warmer, I always will bring with me a tent, and I've been running the Gossamer Gear, the One. It's an ultralight tent. It uses my trekking poles as the support, and it gives me an enclosed space. So it protects me for the most part from snakes getting in there, but mostly scorpions and other things that like to crawl all over you. So the shelter that I set up doesn't solve those problems. So thinking about how I can take this to the next level and solve multiple different problems, I did some research and also looked at some of the comments. And the next iteration of this to offer one, protection from the elements, so rain, protection from the critters, fast to deploy, and also the ability for me to conceal my footprint very quickly. I picked up from Outdoor Research a bivy with a loop called Helium, and I got a great deal for $169 on Optics Planet, and I'm waiting for that to arrive. So now I'm going to be able to really quickly have a small footprint, lightweight package, roll that out, get the one hoop, and then I can even bring my camo netting and just drape it. So I'm going to be lower to the ground, lower profile, and I think that might be the hot ticket for me. So clearly not opposed to always moving the needle. So thanks for that, Bobby. Let's see here. So Pat Hopkins says, looking forward to MCOM tools. In fact, I just dropped a build or release this morning. If you guys are familiar, R4, release 4 will be coming out in April. But for the people who are really into the nerd scene and building that stuff as I'm going, I drop regular builds every few weeks. And the build that I just dropped over on GitHub has support now for Wine, VAR HF, and VAR FM. In fact, it was the features you saw in the last video was everything that is in that current build. So yeah, it does take a little bit of work to build it yourself. Unfortunately, that's due to licensing issues that I can't seem to overcome. But yeah, MCOM Tools has been fun. Ryder says, made a man pack like you've done in using inverted dipole antenna while camping. Have talked to people in New Zealand, love the skip, and important while having a local contact. Love the skip, and it's important while having a local compact system, I think is what he meant to say. Yeah, the man packs are great. The all-in-ones. And again, I am going to do a very small batch run of 25, keeping one for myself, so only 24 going out. And it's going to be a slightly modified version of this guy out the gate. It's only going to be going to the Buy Me a Coffee top tier members as a thank you on a first come, first serve basis. But a few changes I'm making to that man pack are, number one, I've dropped the antenna flaps on the top because I don't use them. Nobody uses them, and it added a lot to the cost in terms of the assembly time. But I'm also doing a fun, I don't know if I'm going to do it forever, but this first release is going to, or relaunch, what I'm calling the TTP Man Pack, the little guy V2, is going to be in multicam with $499 tan webbing, so that I can also cut costs when going back to the normal $499 tan color. So yeah, cheers to another Man Pack guy. It's fun when you can do it. Jeremy says, thanks for taking your time this morning. Great info. Just got the cables to connect to my TrueSDX with the DigiRig. Hope to try it today. Yeah, Jeremy. So my only suggestion is for that, make sure you do 4 kilohertz bandwidth. I found that works the best in the menu. And then also make sure you dial in the frequency. And then one mistake that I made that I'm hoping nobody else makes. I bought mine on Amazon. And in order to prevent fraudulent purchases or fraudulent distribution, the creators of the TrueSDX have a serial system that they've developed. And in the packaging, at least on Amazon, there is a serial number that's in print. It's nowhere else. And I didn't realize it. And my goal was not to read anything, not to watch any YouTube videos, and to experience the TrueSDX for myself. So after I took out all of the hard goodies, I threw away that, and I threw away my serial number. And now I've never had the ability to update the firmware, period. So mine is using the older firmware. So make sure you hang on to that. I think they did some work on being able to do a single interface using the USB. I was never able to do that because I can't update my serial. And honestly, I've never had the time to reach out to Manuel to say, hey, this is who I am. This is what happened. Unfortunately, time is always a premium, and admin is not my strong suit. But yeah, good luck with that today. So keep your serial and make sure you also dial in the frequency. So Eric says they have metal encased ones on eBay. Yeah, there's also another ham that has them. I was not able to get one last year. I've already painted mine. The 3D print seems to work pretty well. So Jeff says, content wins every time. Yeah, I hope you guys like this. Again, not the expert, but just sharing with you what works for me, what doesn't work for me. And it's all based on how I operate out here in the Southwest. So no shortage of stuff. That's why I decided to do a video today. I didn't want to respond to a bunch of people on the trusdx, and now I can just point them at this video. Rabbit Hole Adventure says, every time I see you using the trusdx, it makes me want to pull mine out of the drawer, dust it off, and put it to use. One day I'll get to it. So here's what I'll say. I've got a buddy who I don't think he's on because he has to go to work, but he buys everything that I cover, but he never uses it. And that's why I'm a fan of really not chasing radios. I've talked about this a lot, where I think the big difference, one, I don't consider myself an amateur radio channel. I don't cover amateur radio news. I don't cover new radios. I'm always looking for the tool that does it. So I'm done talking about the BTEC UV Pro. It works, does voice and digital for me the way I need it. I'm done with it. People are asking me about the other radios. I think it's the VJ something that's apparently identical guts. They're like, can you look at that? And my answer to them is no. This thing does everything I need. I'm not going to do a comparison video just to see what else is out there. The point at which I stop using gear is at the point at which it fails to perform for me, or there's something new that has a feature set that is compelling enough for me to jump to it. So same reason why I stopped messing with the trusdx. Once it works, I'm going to make some t-shirts of DNFW at some point. Do not F with is another mantra that my buddy Brian turned me on to. So Matt Sherwood says, I missed the beginning of the stream. Do you use a DigiRig for digital on the trusdx, or did you find that digital modes work well over USB? I've never used the USB cable. I tried it initially just for cat control, and I found that the amount of technical work that was required for me to set that up so it could connect to it was too much work. And then I was never able to upgrade my firmware that had the version where you can also use it to get audio. So I always use the DigiRig Lite. And like I said, if I'm using a radio that's not the UV Pro, in fact, I may get the K1 adapter so that I can use my existing Baofeng cable with this. I like using the DigiRig Lite in the field, mostly because I can switch between radios, my FT60, my VX6, and even a Baofeng pretty quickly, and even the trusdx. So no, I do not use the USB cable for all of those reasons. Anybody here have access to a commissary? I used to, not these days anymore. Oh, so yeah, Pat Hopkins, military full whoopee tent and insulation poncho. I've tried that too, and I was never really a fan. So my USGI poncho does double as the outer shell with a whoopee as a sleeping bag. But again, what I found out here in the Southwest is the weight and size of those together is actually more bulky than my ultralight one-person Gossamer Gear tent. And I always carry trekking poles, mostly for the snakes and for supports for the dipoles and a few other antennas. So I know people like it, but out here, I just don't want the snakes crawling in with me. Just don't want to have to deal with that. Out here, the anti-venom for a Western Diamondback rattlesnake is 30 grand a pop. Insurance should cover most of that. And the average, you might need at least 2 treatments. You're talking 60 grand. So for me, that's why I'm looking at a more fully self-contained shelter, either my Gossamer Gear 1 and hopefully my new bivy. But yeah, I hear the military guys love the whoobies. In fact, what I do keep in the Jeep is that whoobie. In fact, there was another shelter that I was playing with. I wish I could pull it up. In fact, let me see if I can find it. I'm going to be in trouble today. I'll just work later. It's a cool little shelter system. Amazon will do orders. And I don't carry it for one reason. I was testing it yesterday early morning, and I've had it for a few years. I use it for the Jeep. Let me see if I can find it. Tent. Because it's a really cool one to show if I can find it in my orders from 2 years ago. Hold on one second, guys. Okay. Oh, yeah, I found it. Here we go. Stand by. All right, let's share the screen. Okay, let's grab this one. And this is another one of those tools for me that falls into, it's a tool if it fits the need for you. It's not for everything. So it's by USGI Industries. The price point is spot on at $70. I bought mine, I think in 22, and it folds up into a disc about this size, and you unzip it and throw it, and the whole thing just expands. So the problem is that it doesn't fit in any backpack. You almost end up with like a Ninja Turtle shell if you had to strap it to your back, and it doesn't have any type of webbing to strap it to your gear easily. But it is the fastest shelter to deploy. It provides the protection. It's relatively light. I wish there was a way for me to carry it, because that would be my go-to solution. It gives you enough headroom, and it breaks down. It takes some practice to break it back down. You have to do 2 different figure 8 loops to put it back together. But where I do use it now is in the vehicle. So when I go support public service events, and I typically try to, when I work like an ultra marathon providing radio support, I try to be there for the full 24 plus hours, and I'll volunteer for the first 8-hour shift. I'll sleep for the second 8-hour shift, and then I'll work the third shift. In fact, I usually just end up working the whole 24 hours. But what's nice is going to the Jeep, getting my USGI poncho, and I've shown this before. I run that off the top of the Jeep, off the roll bars with my 2 trekking poles with 2 guy lines, so I have protection. And then I toss this guy, and I just sleep there, and it's incredibly quick to deploy. I don't know if I actually even dropped the link. I got spaced out here. But yeah, guys, so that's my philosophy. I look at everything through the lens of how much does it cost? What's the value it provides? Is it quick to deploy? Does it meet my requirements? Can I pack it out? Is it too heavy? And everybody will answer those questions differently. So again, to my buddy David, who buys everything, if you're not going to be trail running and rucking through the mountains, your gear needs may be different. If you're car camping, different set of gear needs. If you're taking an RV, different gear needs. If you're going to be on a bike, different gear needs. Doing POTA, so adapt accordingly is my advice. James Young, welcome. He's another BMAC guy. He says, dang, missed the start. Greetings from Northeast Tennessee. We'll look for the replay. Yeah, this was a fun one, James. Again, if you guys are looking at the replay and want the comments, I think YouTube takes about 2 days. But this was just to go deep on the TruSDX and where I thought. But it also turned out to be a massive video on lots of gear and what I've used and under which application. So kind of a fun one. John says, may have been answered, but where can I find a TruSDX in that color scheme he has? I can only find the orange cases. All right. We'll go show and tell. So I took mine apart and spray painted mine. I did a rattle can job. And let me actually show you my Instagram. Also coming out of that exercise, I've been painting all of my gear lately. Ooh, this is tiny. So after, I'm going to answer your question, but after that exercise, I went ahead and painted my trekking poles, and I used 3 different colors. 2 of them I already had. One was espresso, and then like a khaki brown, and then I got this light green that matches the Palo Verde. So I painted the with spray paint, the tent stakes, and my trekking poles. I actually found it surprisingly that when I put the trekking poles back together and reseated it in the handles, that the paint doesn't come off. In fact, I also found, you can actually see it here, right here at the top, I had an issue where the poles were too high for that A-frame. And I found out that if I remove completely, at least on my trifold trekking poles, the whole base comes out and this is still rigid. I actually have essentially a traditional tent pole stake. So really cool stuff. And these are the 3 cans of paint that I personally use. So the first thing I did with my uSDX, the assembled unit, was I did take apart the case and I went out and just took a large Costco cardboard box and I hit it first with the satin khaki, let that dry. And then my wife suggested for the netting, because I was going to use foliage that we have out here. She actually had these avocado and orange netting that she got at the produce section for the produce. And I just dropped that on top, and then I would hit it with satin espresso, and you end up with kind of a cool color that you see on my True SDX. It actually has that kind of paint job. And then the matte C is new. So that's all I do. I do a rattle can paint job, and now I'm just painting all of my gear. You can kind of see I've been reusing that Costco box now for a while. And I didn't use the netting for this one. I just kind of did a couple of different vertical and horizontal sprays and just did a small rotation. So the fusion stuff, I can tell you, out here in the desert works pretty well. The stakes do lose their paint, but it's much better than the default colors they come in. And there's the matte sea green. This one is the new color, and I find that it is a perfect match for the Palo Verde green that we have out here. So these were some of the updates that I did post that last video. So that was an excellent question. Corey says, any update on field cards for the uSDX and the settings for the DigiRig light? Oh, I never did. Oh, did I create that? I don't know if I did. Let me admin. I'll put it down. There really wasn't much to it. True SDX field card. Now, what he's referring to is I create something for the members, and they're business-sized field cards that you can print out. And I've got a whole stack of them in my wallet. And they look something like this. For example, this is the one that has the amateur radio band plan. And then on the back side, I'll put all of the local repeaters in my area, just in case I have a radio that needs to be programmed manually from the front panel. But I also have cheat cards for all of the radios. And the use case, for example, is maybe not so much for the True SDX, but some of the other radios. How do I program it manually, a frequency? How do I set it up for digital modes? In fact, I have field cards for all of the other radios on Buy Me a Coffee that walk through all the settings. So I've actually run into a scenario where I've had to do a full factory reset of my 818 in the field, where I got in some state that I couldn't figure out what happened. And I had to do the factory reset, and I was able to pull out my 818 card because it sits in the, actually, is it in the pouch here? Let me see. Wasn't expecting to do this. Oh yeah. Bonus. Do what I preach. These are all the field cards that I just pulled out of my 818 man pack. That's got personal information. So for example, here's a good one. FT18, how to program a repeater on the fly. So directly from the front panel. On the back side, I'll have the instructions if I need to save it to the memory. So I never use the cables to program my main duty rigs. I like to understand how it works, and this also helps me whittle down the memories that I'm actually going to use in general. And then here's the card I was telling you about, the digital settings. So if I ever have to do a factory reset, and then I'll use like a cheapo, I don't know what you call these, little binder clip. And it just drops in the front pouch. That's what the front pouch was designed for my TTP man pack. So I tried to keep the field cards that are appropriate for the kit together. And then I also keep this in my Chum Sport Wallet. My Sport Wallet has all the generic cards, in addition to my everyday carry items. Man, you guys are going to get me in trouble with the boss today. So, Owl Quicker, my buddy Dick says anti-venom cost is not the biggest concern. He's absolutely right. Reaction to it and other long-term health issues, no bueno. Yeah, in general, avoidance is the best thing. So I bring snake boots. I bring our little rat terrier Scout. You guys may have seen him on the last few videos. We're not in snake season, but don't let his small 10-pound size fool you. That dog can do, he'll do 12 miles with me on the trail. He'll climb 2,000 feet of elevation with me, no problem. I bring support gear for him, and he is a ratter. He takes care of everything on our property. Unfortunately, he takes care of the good snakes too. He will go after and kill the gopher snakes on our property. He takes care of the pack rats and the mice, but he's a very good alert dog. On the trail, he usually either runs off to the side or just in front of me. And he alerted me to 2 Western Diamondbacks that were right next to each other at the end of kind of September, October. It was still warm out, and he let me know that they were there. I wish I had my hunting license at that time with me, because I probably would have taken one of the Western Diamondbacks as an exercise to see what it was like, what it would be like to field dress it and actually eat it and cook it there in the field. So that's coming up. But yeah, he's absolutely right. Okay, don't know what John is talking about there. Pat says, Gaston, nice setup on tent, and I understand about the snake protection problem. We think alike. Yeah, I just don't really care to mess with those guys. All right, you guys are keeping me busy here. If you do like these random one-off videos where I just toss out a stream, let me know. It's never planned. It's always something that I've got this idea or I've got this admin problem I need to solve. I hate doing emails. Not very good about replying to people given the volume of things, but this allows me to knock out a bunch of stuff all at once. So Matt says, thank you, got a thumbs up. All right, finally we're at the end here. Cheers from LA or cheers from Arizona, Justin. Got somebody in from Austin, Australia, or Austria. Don't have my Glock with me. I'm actually running something different. I love the stuff that comes out of Austria from Glock. Justin says, check out my man pack on QRZ, Kilo Juliet 5, Hotel Tango Bravo. I've been enjoying the 7200 awesome field radio. Yeah, the 7200. I think I might even do a rattle can job. It's the radio that has the little yellow LCD display there. That thing has been on 24 hours a day since I've got it 18 months to 2 years ago. Unbelievable rig. It's got the single cable interface. In fact, Armorlock has frames for it. He offered to send it to me, but I said, look, it's not going to be a field radio for me, but that's an option out there. Rabbit Hole Adventure says, how does one go about becoming a member to get the field cards and whatnot? Yeah, so I did post the link. Let me see if I can pull it up again. So the way the Buy Me a Coffee membership works, that's really the only thing that's keeping me doing all the things that I'm doing. Let's see here. Come on. Okay. So all you have to do is, and if it wasn't for Buy Me a Coffee, I wouldn't be doing this. This is where 99% of everything that I need to run the channel comes from. I've got 3 different membership tiers. I've got actually, let me show my screen here. We'll just put it up there. Bring this guy up. So I have different membership tiers. I've got the $5 a month, the $25 the silver, and then the gold is very limited. I only have 4 members. And what each tier, so it doesn't matter which tier you're in. Everybody gets access to about once or twice a month. I will post something there. It has usually links to new field cards that I create, references that I put together. It has early access to videos before I turn on the ads. There's also a monthly live stream we do at the very end of every month. It's either Saturday morning at 7 a.m. Pacific, or it's on a Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific. It varies from month to month. And it's kind of like this, but I have a more structured agenda. I'm also doing giveaways. So I will be doing one VAR license to one basic member every month for the rest of the year. I do miscellaneous giveaways throughout the year as well. I did some big ones actually for December. And I also, all of the kind of, I did something called the TTP Nerd Hour when I took my 7-week sabbatical to work on MCOM tools. And that was content that was only available on Buy Me a Coffee. Again, it applied to all membership levels. And I went through, and every week I would show the features that were going into the build and how I did things, how things worked. So I'll be doing another TTP Nerd Hour probably next week on all the VAR stuff. And again, I have to do a lot of like member only content to keep that going. There also is a member Discord, which has grown incredibly well. In fact, I can't take any credit for that. The community has just kind of run with that. I am rarely in there, but I do post announcements. The reason to go to silver for 25, this is for people that really believe in what I want to do. They're not really looking to get a particular perk out of me, but they have disposable income and just want to really see me move the needle. This is actually my bread and butter tier. For this group, I'm now starting to do giveaways every month for silver that are larger items. So for example, this is a $160 radio that I gave away to the silver / gold group. And they'll also be getting this month a VAR license. I'm going to do another good size giveaway. In fact, for this month, I think I'm going to do a true SDX giveaway to a gold / silver member. So I'll put that down there. We'll do giveaway there. And then for, and then the man packs that are coming out. So the limited run of the TTP man packs, given how much time and energy it takes to produce all of that locally in the US, I can only do small batches. And I'm only going to be making 25 of the version 2 out the gate. I need to see if it actually works and the new manufacturing partnership with the local works well. Gold is guaranteed. Any product I ever design, the gold guys are always guaranteed one. I only have 4 members, and I have not had an opening in 2 years. The other thing that the gold members get is a 1-hour one-on-one every month to do whatever. Most of those guys have stopped doing the one-on-ones, but have been supporting me anyhow. So that's been kind of nice, but happy to do it. And then after, let's say, those 4 gold members buy it, I'll have roughly 20 bags left. All of those will go to silver on a first come, first serve basis, 1 bag only. And then if I do larger runs, let's say I do another run of like 50 bags, again, it's only going to go to silver, and I'm going to exhaust all of the silver guys first on a first come, first serve basis. And then once there's no more interest from silver, basic will get it cracked. So unfortunately, my niche products outside of things like patches, morale patches, never make it public. And it's just based on all the stuff I'm doing. So again, if you really believe in anything and everything I'm doing and are okay with those perks, that's what the membership is all about. Let's see here. So Justin says, I built a frame to put mine in and out of copper tubing. Oh, that's interesting. Might work well as a ground plane. It's like an old Army man pack. I'm definitely wanting to test out MCOM tools sooner or later. I'm just not spiffy with Linux. I'm learning. Yeah, so I think this might be a great way to learn. We cover the install quite a bit. For release 4 that's coming out in April, I'll do a end-to-end install and post that on the MCOM tools, the community.mcomtools.com site. So you may want to wait till April because this new release has got a ton of stuff built into it. And again, due to licensing, it's a little bit of a challenge, but guys that have never used Linux before, that have been Windows only, are getting up and running. And it's pretty much plug and play with the supported hardware. So Justin says he's using the DigiPi. Okay, this is a funny question, and then I'm going to drop here, guys. Rabbit Hole Adventure says, do you have a true SDX man pack? No. And again, it goes back to what's the purpose, right? This is a $150 unit. I run it protected in a little 6x6 bag that I had my neighbor make for me. I've had nothing fall off of the TrueSDX, not even the knob. So it hasn't seemed to need the protection. And if I was going to add the protection to it, especially with aluminum, this might be a joke. I'm realizing that now. There's no reason, in my opinion, to do it. I might as well carry my 818 bare if I'm going to add any more protection. I don't know if they have a true SDX with 10 meters. That's a good question. I don't do 10 meters these days anymore. I think the work bands 12 and 17 are about as high in frequency as I go. All right, guys, with that said, I am way late for work. I'm going to have to apologize, but thank you all for jumping in at the last minute. I'm the Tech Prepper. Be strong, be safe, and be prepared.